Today I'm going to teach you how to make star bread, and it's gorgeous but super simple. If you've ever been discouraged or just too overwhelmed to try, come watch my video and I'll show you how to do it. Here you go. So first we're going to put our milk and our yeast in the food processor, as well as our sugar. Now I already measured out the milk and yeast. I'll show you how to do the sugar. Turn on your scale. Let it get to 0. Put your cup on. 0 it out. I want 50 grams of sugar, so I got a little too much. Put it back. Okay, there we go, 50 grams. We'll just put it in. And my milk is already room temperature. You want room temperature. If you need to, put it in the microwave for 15 seconds and then mix it up a little bit. Put it in for 10 more seconds and it'll be warm enough. Next we'll add our sourdough starter, flour, and eggs. These eggs have been sitting in warm water to help them warm up to room temperature. If I don't remember to get my eggs out of the fridge soon enough, I put them in warm water and they warm up pretty quickly, just a few minutes. We want 100 grams of the sourdough starter. It's at 122. I got a little too much. Okay, now we'll do the flour. We want 540 grams bread flour. So we'll zero that out. All right, 540. So we have our eggs. Do flour and starter. We're going to just mix this up and it'll be a pretty rough dough, but after that we'll allow it to sit for 15 minutes and then do our next step. And when you use a food processor, it really doesn't take hardly any time. You have to be careful not to overdo it. So here's what the dough looks like. And it's pretty sticky-ish and pretty rough looking. So we'll let it sit. We just want to make sure all the flour is incorporated. We'll come right back once it's sat for 15 minutes. I like to put the lid on when I let it sit. Okay, now we have let it sit for 15 minutes. We'll be putting butter in and salt. You want unsalted butter and add your own salt. Now as this blends, it'll get more elastic. You want it to be pulling away from the sides of the food processor. I like to check on it because the food processor is really fast. It doesn't take long for it to get elastic. So you wanna, I flip it over, pull it up, flip it over. When you do this in a mixer, it takes about 10 minutes. A food processor, it can take 30 seconds. You really don't want to overmix it. Okay, that That seems good to me. When it goes around, it pulls away from the sides. So that's what you want. We will be putting in a bowl, and we want it to double. I like to put a tiny bit of avocado oil in because it doesn't taste like anything. That was actually more than I usually do, but it's okay. Just put it up on all the sides. One thing I want to make sure I mention is you want to use your dough blade. This is the only one that's going to work for this. And I actually think I did get too much oil, so I'm going to take some of that out so it doesn't get too oily. I always get a super thin towel wet. You want one that doesn't have any kind of fuzzies on it. Just super thin, a little tea towel that will fit over your bowl. I get it wet with hot water and squish it out completely. I like to tighten it by putting the corners underneath so the top is tight. And then you want to let it sit for at least an hour. You want it to double in size. So it could double or almost double. It doesn't have to double exactly, but it'll take an hour or two depending on how warm your house is. But since we used commercial yeast in this, that's only a fraction of the time it would take if you just used the sourdough starter. That would take several hours. So just an hour or two, we'll come back in an hour and check and see where it's at. Now that our dough has doubled in size, we're going to split it into 4 equal pieces, and I'm going to weigh it. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but weighing it helps make sure that we'll get the same size circles so we can make our star and have each layer the same size. As you can see, it has doubled. It might be barely under, but it's perfectly great to do. I actually use brown rice flour when I am putting the extra flour down. Okay, 274. Hopefully we have this right. 274. 272. 272. 273. Woohoo! Okay, that's perfect. So this bowl is big enough. We'll just form each of these balls into more rounded of a ball and put it in here. Put the wet towel back over it and let it sit for 10 minutes. And then we'll come back and we'll roll out the dough. Ten minutes have passed, and I'm going to take one ball at a time, roll it out, and then top it with this chocolate almond spread from Trader Joe's, and it's really, really good. It's one of my favorite fillings. You can also do cinnamon and sugar with a cream cheese topping, and I also want to try lemon curd with cream cheese or berries and cream cheese or anything else that comes to mind. I think with this one you could also do a savory filling. What I'm shooting for is about 10 to 11 inches. How I check that is with this dinner plate. It helps me make each layer the exact same size. If your ball that has been rolled out is having trouble stretching enough, just leave it for another 10 minutes and it will loosen up. You want to make sure you get it pretty close to the edge so the whole star has chocolate filling. Now with my second layer on, I will add more chocolate. It's easier if you let the one you roll out sit on the plate while you put the chocolate or the filling on the other one. As the dough warms up, it's actually easier to spread it with your finger. Obviously, your hands are clean through this whole process. So don't be afraid to use your fingers if you need to spread it. Now we have 4 layers of dough with 3 layers of filling in between. And now we just let it sit for about 4 or 5 minutes. We'll come back after that and I'll show you the next step. Now that the dough has sat, we're going to roll it out really softly, like hardly any pressure at all. We're just trying to make sure everything is put together and nothing weird is going on. After that, we'll put a small jar in the center to hold it down and get the right shape and cut it. Then we'll twist. You want to make sure it's in the very center, and I just have my egg wash in here. We are cutting this into 16 pieces. Now I'm going to show you how to shape the star. We're going to take 2 pieces side by side and twist them away from each other and then shape the point. Okay, so 2 pieces, twist, and again, and then make sure you overlap so this corner and this corner are together. And you can shape this part up and shape this part back. And it's very soft at this point, so don't over mold it. So now we have our star bread twisted up, and now we just need to wait 30 minutes for it to poof up. After that, we'll put an egg wash on top. Then we'll cook it at 350 degrees for 20 minutes. And the egg wash will make it a nice crispy golden brown. Mine are always done at 20 minutes. Yours might need to cook for another 5 minutes or even a few minutes longer than that. Just depends on your oven. So keep an eye on it. But when it turns a nice golden brown on top, then it's done.